Emilia Perez was nominated for and won far too many awards. But at least by the time we got to the Oscars, it was such a known mess that the Oscars didn't give it most of the awards it had been nominated for. Almost a record number of awards, by the way. It's still an absolute act of heresy against the concept of art for it to have been even nominated for that many, but I'll take my wins where I can get them. If you're unsure why Emilia Perez is a terrible film, and in particular terrible trans rep, may I direct you to the wonderful Jessie Genders video on the topic. She breaks down everything about it that sucks and why. And also she's just like an amazing creator, so like get on that. I'm not here to talk about Emilia Perez largely because I don't believe it's worth my or anybody's time. Instead of complaining about it, I'm going to walk away from it because it deserves to be ignored and thrown into the wastebins of movie history. However, before I get onto what I actually want to talk about, I feel it is my duty to spend at least a little bit of time roasting Emilia Perez, Rwandan style. Emilia Perez is what happens when we let people convince us there's such a thing as too woke so that we settle for something that labels itself with all the woke labels but somehow is more regressive than 90% of trans rep in the last 20 years. Emilia Perez is so bad that Zoe Saldana's frankly phoned-in performance won an Oscar purely because when placed next to every other performance in the film, she looks like Meryl fucking Streep. Emilia Perez is made by a French man in his 70s. Enough said. Emilia Perez doesn't pull its punches at just the trans and Mexican community, however. No, it also makes straight women look fucking terrible. Selena Gomez, baby, I'm so sorry you had to deliver this dialogue.
Hasta me duele la pinche vulva nada más de acordarme de ti.
And I'm sorry they didn't give you enough time for the accent to not be absolute ass. Emilia Perez has a more baffling non-sequitur car cliff diving sequence than Black Sheep, and that's a comedy horror film, and in this film, it's supposed to be the dramatic final ending before the credits roll. I'm spoiling it for you, but you're not gonna watch it. Emilia Perez somehow managed to do the only thing worse than not casting a trans woman in the lead role, which is to cast one of the most racist trans women in existence, and then just try to pretend that isn't true by singing extremely loudly and out of tune whenever anybody points it out. Emilia Perez is to the Spanish language what Ollie London is to Korean.
반가워요.
반갑습니다.
에브리메모예요?
네?
에브리메모예요? Okay.
Emilia Perez is to the trans community what Ollie London is to the trans community. Emilia Perez is to music what Ollie London is to music. Like a criminal undercover. Emilia Perez is to art what Ollie London is to... You get it. Emilia Perez is what happens when your only knowledge of trans people is from Twitter memes and your only knowledge of Mexico comes from Breaking Bad. Okay, that'll do for now. Anyway. Now to get to the actual point of this video, which is to give you better things to watch. And if you're saying, Talis, you're not a transgender woman, you're an AFAB person, what could you possibly have to say about good trans rep? Then congratulations, you're using critical thinking and I love you. While I do fall under the trans umbrella, as an AFAB person I cannot be a trans woman, but let's be real for a second, neither was Jacques Audiard, and he got to the Oscars through misinformation and bad filmmaking alone. Shoot for your dreams, kids. You should listen to trans women about their community and about their representation, but I'm kind of going off of the idea that most people won't go straight to the source in order to find real trans rep. Most people don't even know where to start, which is why I'm going from the this is a metaphor about humanity and kindness end of the spectrum all the way to the weird trans passion project end. If you're not trans, if you don't know anything about the trans community, hell, if you're one of those people that doesn't understand it or is even afraid of it because it's so different to you, you should watch this video. If that person is one of your relatives, you should send them this video. If you're trans, you probably already know most of these things, but I appreciate your time anyway. So, without further ado, let's get it.
Let's get it! Let's gotta get it!
Starting from things that are barely trans rep but are somehow still better, and ending with legitimate trans-led or created projects that everybody should watch. Number 1. My Lady Jane. My Lady Jane is a devastatingly short-lived Amazon Prime show retelling a portion of English history, except it's in a parallel world where there are a race of people who can secretly turn into animals called Ethians, and the monarchy are trying to pin all their problems on them so that people won't notice that the monarchy is the problem. In case this doesn't already ring a bell, That's literally what most governments are doing to trans people right now.
Jane was taught that Ethians are dangerous abominations sent by Satan to destroy the Verity way of life. Poppycock, of course. For decades, Ethians have been reviled, persecuted, banned, and then King Henry, renowned shithead that he was, exiled them to the wilderness.
It's also what they did to queer people in history and black people, and anyone who wasn't cis, white, and straight. Anyway, while there aren't any trans actors or explicit mention of trans representation within the show, the Ethians are very clearly supposed to be a representation of trans and queer people.
It's just one of those things you're born with, like being left-handed or the colour of your eyes.
Look, the truth is I grew up oblivious to the inequity in this kingdom. I'm not proud to say that. But I didn't see it, so I didn't have to think about it.
You think we need a cure?
Like we're sick, cursed, diseased.
Don't need one.
Why would I want a cure? I'm an owl. I can see in the dark. What the fuck can you do?
They even used the word cis at one point.
Yet our beleaguered ex-king remains stubbornly cismorphic.
It's not subtle. They have an entire storyline where the main male lead is trying to essentially conversion therapy himself out of being trans until he finds out that there isn't a cure and the only way to live is to accept who he is. Radical. There's also gay characters, non-white characters, extremely funny shit, and the narrator is actually perfect, and I have 0 notes.
If therapists were invented in 1553, our brooding, tortured hero would be a different man, and this would be a different story.
I can be love to you, baby.
But they weren't. And he isn't. And it can't be.
Every member of the ensemble is perfectly cast, and if you're trying to soft launch the idea of gay or trans rights to your more conservative friends or relatives, this might be the way to do it, because if they can sympathise with Ethians, they can sympathise with us. It does have some raunchy sex scenes and silly humour in though, so if they're not that kind of person, I'd maybe give it a skip.
What's your first best skill, Mummy?
Felicia.
But also, you should just watch this anyway, it's a great show. It was, unfortunately, as I mentioned, cancelled after 1 season, but the final episode ends on a good enough note that while I am sad, I'm not pissed off about where we left it. It's 8 episodes, so you can polish that off in an afternoon if you're me, or a few days if you have a healthy relationship with your media consumption. And if you're upset at the fact that it was left without a real conclusion, you can go read the book.
Real life, as we know, can be a real kick in the tits.
Number 2. X-Men. This falls into a similar category as My Lady Jane in that it isn't explicitly about being trans, but it may as well be. When the mutants were first created back in the day, it was used as representation of race relations. In the 90s and 2000s, it became a vehicle for the queer struggle, and in the 2020s, it's the most obvious one-to-one for trans rights in existence without explicitly being about trans people. Not only is it made clear multiple times that the cure is being created by people who hate mutants, but it also makes people's powers an innate part of them. It even shows the imbalance within the community. You can make a very easy argument that people with the fun powers who don't understand why people with shitty powers don't want them are the equivalent to white cis gays who don't understand why trans people's experience of the world is different to theirs. There's a scene in the second X-Men movie where Bobby tells his parents about his mutant status, and his parents react pretty much exactly how you'd expect bigoted, anti-queer parents to act.
When did you first know you were
a mutant? We thought Bobby was going to a school for the gifted.
Bobby is gifted.
We know that. We just didn't realize he
We
was...
still love you, Bobby. It's just this mutant problem is a little...
What mutant problem?
complicated. Have you tried not being a mutant?
The thing that tips it over My Lady Jane in terms of trans rep to me is that there are actual gender fluid characters in the X-Men. Mystique and Morph are the 2 most obvious examples, and as an agender person, it's no wonder that Mystique was always my favourite character growing up. Well, her and Rogue, whose entire identity is in borrowing other people's powers and suffering for it. Something which will take me 10 years and a qualified therapist to unpack. It's the masking and the trauma. There's also, in the wider Marvel canon, characters like Loki, who are famously gender fluid, but in the mainstream consciousness, the MCU just doesn't address their superheroes the same way as mutants. So it's not as clear of a parallel. Under the Marvel banner, the MCU is extremely heterosexual. Also, the first 2 X-Men movies are really good, as is First Class and Days of Future Past, plus the animated shows rule, so there's plenty of content to get invested in before you even get to full nerddom and read the comics like me. Don't watch the 3rd X-Men or Dark Phoenix, though. Those movies suck ass. You will only have a bad time. They've never successfully adapted the Dark Phoenix arc to the silver screen. They did it pretty okay in the animated shows, but not not in the movies. It's just too complex for a movie. Number 3, The Matrix. We're still in metaphors for trans identity territory, but this time created by 2 actual trans women. If you want to know how much the creator's identity influenced the films, you should watch the amazing Aronofsky video on the subject, because it's perfect. I don't have anything to say about this series that she hasn't already said, but if you hate Andrew Tate and the red pill nonsense as much as I do watching or rewatching these movies, with the knowledge that taking the red pill is essentially realizing you're trans, both makes you hate them more, and makes them even more laughable because they don't understand the basic core of the thing they're referencing. Anyway, The Matrix is great. We all know it's great. Look at these action scenes. Look at this emotional through line. It's beautiful.
I know Kung Fu. Show me.
Number 4, I Saw the TV Glow. This is another one of those movies that I could talk forever about, but I don't need to because my wonderful friend Aronok already has. Seriously, go watch this video. It's beautiful. I cried, so will you. But if you're not sure what this film is about, it's essentially a psychological horror film about 2 teenagers who start to question their reality, and by extension their identities. I don't want to tell you too much about it, because it's one of those films that I think everyone should go into as blind as possible, but considering it's on this list, yeah, it's a big old metaphor for transness. It's written and directed by a trans femme non-binary person, Jane Schoenbrunn, and it stars Jack Haven, a trans masc non-binary person, in one of the lead roles. I'm not saying anything else, just go watch it. If it doesn't make you cry, you are a stronger person than I.
I like girls, you know that, right?
Totally, that's fine.
What about you? Do you like girls?
I think that I like TV shows.
Number 5, Heartstopper. If you're looking for fun, teen-centric, sweet romance with a biblically accurate queer friendship group, then Heartstopper is your bag. Seriously, it's so funny when I think about writing stories where the entire friend group is queer, and I go, oh, will people think I'm pandering? And then I remember that my entire friend group in high school was gay and trans as fuck, so actually it's more accurate to add more homos in there. Anyway, you've all heard of Heartstopper by now, but it really is a fun, mostly light-hearted romp that tugs the hell out of your heartstrings. And one of the main characters is Elle, a trans girl who knew her friends before she transitioned, and we follow her move to an all-girls school and through her burgeoning crush on her best friend. It's super cute, tooth-rotting fluff, and I can't recommend it enough. Also, one of the side characters, who was originally a cis lesbian, is played by Kizzy Edgell, a trans masculine non-binary person, and the character has evolved with their journey, so they now use they-them pronouns. So it's just super cute and fun.
Nick and Charlie! Oh, you're being gay. Good job. Carry on.
Number 6, Feel Good. If you're looking for a fun, adult-centric rom-com with a trans/non-binary main character, Feel Good is your bag. Mae Martin stars as a fictionalized version of themselves, navigating their messy life. The fact that they are under the trans umbrella is both addressed as an important part of their existence and treated as entirely inconsequential at various points in the story, allowing both to exist simultaneously as true. Their transness will always be a part of their journey, but it's also not the most important thing about them. It focuses on addiction, past trauma, queer identity, and the extremely relatable premise of trying to have a functional relationship and love life when you're struggling in other aspects of your life.
I want to know if you found a new Narcotics Anonymous meeting.
A what meeting? A what meeting?
It's also super funny.
May, please don't bail on yourself.
This is really high.
Yeah, you know you can take the front door, right? This isn't prison.
Can you promise me that you're not going to self-destruct?
Of course I'm not going to self-destruct.
So what are you going to do now?
I think I'm going to self-destruct.
If you liked Mae Martin in this, you will also like them in their season of Taskmaster, which absolutely slapped.
I think you're fast becoming an expert at these tasks.
Oh, thank you.
They beaver away, they create something.
I beaver away famously.
Number 7, The Umbrella Academy. But only to season 3. I cannot stress this enough. Finish season 3 and then go, oh no, so sad that this show was cancelled before it could get an ending, and then move on with your life. Season 4 is Game of Thrones and the 100 levels of absolutely horrific final season writing botching. Do not watch it. Okay? Now that that's out of the way, The Umbrella Academy is one of my favourite shows. 7 siblings with various powers who no longer speak to each other are brought back together by their abusive father's funeral, and then their missing brother 5 shows up from the future to tell them the apocalypse is nigh. He's like a 60-year-old guy in a 13-year-old's body. It's hilarious. Messy family dynamics, queer characters, cool powers, and time-hopping assassins. It is a perfect show.
So's Ben.
Yeah, and he's a complete dickhead.
They're all dickheads. Yeah, dickheads who can fight.
Okay, the next person to say dickhead is getting a punch to the throat.
Dickhead.
Dickhead. Dickhead.
Again, I cannot stress this enough. Season 4 does not exist. Victor Hargreaves, a character who... transitions to a man in season 3 as a reflection of his actor Elliot Page's transition between seasons. It's handled surprisingly well, and I sure wish they'd been given a final season with more of Victor as his true self in it, because, I think it could have been really good.
It's, Victor.
Who's Victor?
I am. It's who I've always been. Is that an issue for anyone?
No, I'm good with it.
Yeah, me too. Cool.
Truly happy for you, Victor. But last time I checked, you don't speak for this family.
Number 8. Sense8. Yes, I did do that on purpose. Sense8 is one of my favourite shows. It is a comfort watch for me, and I will be in love with it forever. It's also created by the Wachowskis of Matrix fame, see previous section. It follows 8 people who are born into a cluster, people who can not only converse with each other across countries and languages inside each other's heads, but who can borrow each other's bodies and skills in order to affect their material lives.
Someone please help me. Stay calm.
Are you in my head or are you here?
I'm in Seoul. I was sleeping.
Who are you?
I'm Sun.
We don't have time for this.
He's gonna call for backup.
Back up on Corbett.
This guy's right-handed, he's gonna go for your right wrist.
Throw the gun.
Get on the bike.
I don't know how to drive.
I do.
They're being hunted down by an evil organization.
कुछ लोग आए थे तुम्हारे बारे में पूछने कोई मेडिकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से.
What organization?
I just remember 3 letters. BP.
Oh shit! And this struggle spans the entirety of the 2 seasons and final movie. They shot on location in different countries, using local actors in most of them, and the amount of work placed into every facet of this show is frankly unbelievable. It's another show whose entire existence feels like one big metaphor for queer existence, where just being a part of this subset of society is enough for people to hate them and try to wipe them out. But it's also quite literally about trans people, because one of the main characters is Nomi Marks, a trans woman and hacker. Her story, outside of everything going on with the cluster, revolves around the lack of acceptance from her conservative parents.
For a long time, I was afraid to be who I am because I was taught by my parents that there's something wrong with someone like me. Something offensive, something you would avoid, maybe even pity. Something that you could never love.
And her relationship with her girlfriend Armanita, a perfect angel of a woman.
So have you.
Me? I've been working at the same bookstore since you met me, but not for much longer if I don't shake my ass.
Ow. Wait.
Did I mention she's also a hacker? She's so cool. I love her so much.
I wasn't a criminal.
No, activist.
Hacktivist.
So much of Sense8 is about finding acceptance inside yourself and building community with those who care about you. It's found family in a bottle, and I adore it. And while some people will say that the final movie rushed things and had to wrap things up a bit quickly because they had to, because they were cancelled and then got a movie, I will say having that kind of ending was still perfect.
I'm marching for that part of me that was once too afraid to march. And for all the people who can't march, the people living lives like I did. Today I march to remember that I'm not just a me, I'm also a we. And we march with pride.
Number 9, Will and Harper. Speaking of found family, if you haven't already watched the Netflix documentary film that Will Ferrell made with his longtime friend, writer Harper Steele, I highly recommend it. It was created specifically because Will had almost no knowledge of the trans community before his friend transitioned, and he wanted to spend more time with her as a woman and see the world through her lived experiences.
I still had a lot of questions.
And I have a lot of questions I want to ask Will. Like, what does being trans mean to him? Does he think I'm a woman? Does he know any trans people besides me?
Why the name Harper? And how long did she feel this way? What made her keep this in for so long?
Is he curious about hormones and surgeries and hair removal? Does he want to ask me all the questions you're not supposed to ask trans people?
Does she still like shitty beer?
Why does he think Natty Light is a terrible beer?
How am I supposed to treat her? Does she want it to change? Will I be making a completely new friend?
It shows a lot of the like lived daily realities of being a trans person, and it also shows somebody who had no knowledge of that beforehand kind of having to reconcile that, and the conversations they have where he realizes he doesn't know enough and is maybe holding some bigoted ideas, and it's also just about two people who are lifelong friends having to navigate a new version of what their friendship looks like, and it's kind of beautiful.
Was there anything you learned about Will that you didn't know, or Will that you learned about Harper that you didn't know?
For me, I had no idea the despair that Harper felt for so long, you know. It's like, and she hit it really well. She hit it.
We've been friends for 27 years, you know? I mean, he loves me. You know what I mean? And I don't know, it just, he cared so much about this. He cared about making sure that I wasn't in pain, and it just, yeah, it was very sweet for me.
I would have put this higher up on the list in terms of like getting conservative people who don't know anything about trans life to watch it, but I think it moves into directly addressing transness, whereas a lot of the previous ones were sort of tied up in a lot of metaphor, and I think that this should be something that you show to your relatives who are anti-trans, but it also should be coupled with other things where it's like, well, you can identify with these people in this fictional scenario, so why is that so different from watching this real person go through their life and their struggles, you know?
Small addendum to this, while I do think it is great and like a great step forward mainstream rep wise, I do think it does gloss over the realities of living as a trans person in the country. Like it touches on them.
Here's the thing, Will proposed the idea knowing that my transition might change the way I navigate the country, which is true.
That is true.
Which is absolutely true. I fear it. I do fear it. Will knows that I like shitty bars, I like truck stops, I like the lowest, worst places. I walked down an alley a couple weeks ago, and I was like, nope, I don't like this.
Don't do that.
I can't do this.
It's not safe for you anymore.
Yeah.
But like the sort of through line of the whole piece is Harper saying that she doesn't hate these people, and, you know, you shouldn't be afraid, and all of those things are true, but I do think it sort of rings hollow in a world where you can be murdered for walking into a bar visibly trans, you know, and it's nice that she was in a position where she didn't, and where she was able to get by, but you wonder what would happen if she went back to those places without a camera crew, you know, or without Will Ferrell.
But you sort of running point makes this a fuck of a lot easier than if I was just alone, and I got to keep that in mind throughout this trip, because obviously I'm getting a little free pass here, but I'm not saying it's not going to be difficult.
I like the compassionate spin that it puts on it, but it does feel a little bit rose-colored glasses sometimes. I will say that. Am I going to lie and say that it didn't make me absolutely weep tears seeing this trans woman be supported by her friends and be accepted into bar situations? No, I sobbed absolute buckets, of course. Of course I did. I just wish that was the reality for everyone, you know, even when the cameras aren't there.
My voice gets me misgendered a lot. You know?
You hate your voice.
I hate the voice. I really do like passing, and I would love to pass. The voice was killing me. I don't really want this low male voice, you know?
I did that too for a while, you know, because I went to this vocal therapy course, sat down one night, I'm really thinking, was I doing this for me or for society, you know?
Right.
And I thought, no, I'm doing it for everybody else but me. This is my voice, you know? A lot of transitioning is learning to accept yourself, I think.
Number 10, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and by extension, To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. Old representation? Somewhat flawed, but fuck me if it isn't a great time. Both of these movies center around drag queens, and each one has at least one explicitly trans-leaning character.
Maybe I'm not just a boy in a dress.
All right, you are a drag princess.
I could live with that.
Nobody's ever out-drunk old Sil before. Where'd you learn to throw 'em back like that?
That's our girl, Bernadette. I just knew that stumbling around the pub circuit with lay girls for 200 years must have taught her something.
And both of them revolve around grace and empathy. They both have some moments that have aged badly, although more obviously in regards to race than queerness.
That chaw is Latin. You don't want to be getting mixed up in all that Latin mess. She might turn out to be a Sandinista or something.
Thema Jackson, I must admit that I am shocked and just a little bit saddened by you.
I made chocolate cracker. We put cream on?
No, it's face cream. It's for face.
Obviously, they both star cis male actors as the trans feminine characters, which we wouldn't do now, but they still handle those characters with far more nuance than Emilia Perez does, which is an agonizingly low bar, but still.
None of you good people need to get involved. Don't protect these freaks, these weirdos coming in here, these boys in dresses, corrupting you with their way of life, changing the way things have always been. I really don't think that's what you want.
The trans character in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert does get dead named a lot by one of the other main characters as a form of pissing her off, like he does it on purpose to wind her up, as is the nature of their relationship. And obviously that's something we wouldn't do now. And it's not something that the movie is really in support of. Whenever he does it, we're shown how upset it makes her. And she rightfully has a go at him about it. But it does happen a lot, so if you're not comfortable even seeing a character be dead named, like that's just fair warning.
They both have moments that involve assaults and men being shitty, but they also both involve community coming together to protect the queens, and every single performance in both movies is absolutely stellar. To Wong Fu is unique as well, in that it stars two, kind of three, although John Leguizamo wasn't really that famous yet, famous action stars in Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze, and you really never see them out of drag at all in the movie, except for in like the opening sequence / montage when they're putting the drag on. It's like cross-dressing is their natural state, which I adore.
I will also say, these two movies are so fucking funny. The dry wit, which is so intrinsic to drag culture, is just off the charts in both of these movies. It's just that one of them has a very distinctly Australian flavour.
Three of us.
A desert holiday, let's pack the drag away. You take the lunch and tea, I'll take the ecstasy. Fuck off, you silly queer, I'm getting out of here. A desert holiday, hip, 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 hooray.
Why?
Hello. Nice night for it.
Come on, girls, let's go shopping.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
And one of them has a more, like, ball culture flavour, and we will get to ball culture in a minute.
That little Latin boy in drag is crying. Find out why that little Latin boy in drag is crying.
Little Latin boy in drag. Why are you crying?
To Wong Fu, thanks for everything. Julie Newmar. Who was Wong Fu?
I don't know, but evidently they were close.
Had enough of this conversation. I'm hungry.
I feel like Miss Jane Mansfield in this car.
Oh, Jane Mansfield, not a good auto reference.
Well, Pumpkins, it looks like it comes down to that age-old decision. Style or substance.
Number 11. Paris is Burning, and by extension, Pose. Paris is Burning is a deeply important but also quite upsetting documentary about the queer culture in New York City in the 80s, in particular ball culture and its intersections with trans, black and Latino identities. It follows the lives of various queer people throughout, some of whom passed away before the documentary came out, and many of whom have passed away since. It's one of those pinnacle works about the queer community that is talked about for a reason, and it's well worth the watch.
The DTs came to me with a picture of her murdered, and they were about to cremate her because nobody had came to verify the body, and I was the one that had to give all this information down to her family. We used to get dressed together, call each other, and say what we were going to wear, and, you know, she was like my right hand. As far as I'm concerned, I miss her. Every time I go anywhere, I miss her. But that's part of life as far as being a transsexual in New York City and surviving.
It's like crossing into the Looking Glass in Wonderland. You go in there and you feel 100% right as being gay.
And that's not what it's like in the world.
It's not what it's like in the world. It's not what it's like in the world.
In addition to this, despite my personal distaste of anything headed by Ryan Murphy, video incoming soon, Pose is actually pretty good. It follows essentially the same community and time period that Paris is Burning does, but with a fictionalized take on it all. It's extremely gay, it's extremely trans, it's extremely intersectional. It received a lot of praise, and I understand why. If you're looking for lots of trans people on your screen, Pose is the show for you. It's also just like a fun romp, you know? It's a fun time. It can get dark and upsetting, but it's a fun time.
We are dying, and it's time that we fight.
I'm not posing for a mugshot.
Wake up!
Number Number 12. T-Blockers. T-Blockers is a niche Aussie horror film written and created by a trans woman, Alice Mackay, about a trans woman in a small town who realizes that the men in town are being turned into mindless, zombie-like creatures who are a danger to them all. It's a fun romp full of trans people, drag queens, and queer culture, which also manages to turn the zombie genre, something which has previously been used to critique capitalism, consumerism, and contagion, into a metaphor for the danger that Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson and red pill ideology poses to the rest of society. As a known lover of zombie narratives, a known lover of horror movies, and a known lover of queer culture, this movie ticks all the right boxes for me personally, so if you're into any of those things, you should check it out too. It's hard to find online, but it's worth it. Try Amazon, Apple TV, or Google Play if you're willing to pay for it. It's a good time. Honestly, I love this movie so much that I'd make a whole video just about it, and I might do that for my Patreon, so if you're interested in that, please subscribe. The fact that Alice is 5 years younger than me does make me want to walk directly into the ocean, but the fact that she, as a teenager, managed to get this movie made is a testament to the fact that there are spaces for weird trans art out there. And they're everywhere. You just have to start looking. And if you have the money, you have to start funding it. Please. I'm literally begging. Number 13. Southern Comfort. And taking a wild left turn from a super fun flick into one of the most heartbreaking documentaries I've ever seen, we have Southern Comfort, a 2001 film about transgender man Robert Eads. It chronicles the last year of his life living with ovarian cancer, being refused treatment by multiple doctors who didn't want to admit to treating a trans person.
I think by the time that day was over, we had over 20 doctors and I don't know how many hospitals that refused to treat him.
More worried about their reputation than the golden rule of fucking medicine. Unfortunately, by the time he did actually receive any treatment, the cancer had already progressed too much. It is a devastating watch, but one which hammers home the life-saving importance of chosen family and building community with one another. The rest of the world refused to save Robert Eads, but his friends and his girlfriend, a transgender woman named Lola, made his last days something worth fighting for, despite every roadblock they faced along the way.
I can't hate him. I don't hate him. I feel sorry for him. I can't say I actually forgive them for what they've done. I think that's more between them and God, but I don't hate them. I guess what makes me most sad is that they probably feel like they did the right thing.
Queer community was vital in 2001 and it's vital now, especially in the wake of everything Trump and Musk are doing. They're trying to drag us back to the 90s or the 40s. They want to treat queer culture like something dangerous, to otherize and let die the people in our lives who don't conform to their definition of normal. But we can't let them. They say that struggle makes for the best art, and while I don't fully agree with that sentiment, if you do, then you should be consuming exclusively art made by queer people and people of colour, because the struggles they go through are quite literally built into the system. Show the people in your lives who might not agree with the trans lifestyle, with extremely heavy air quotes, one of the things on this list. Hell, show them this video. It shouldn't be on trans people to beg for other people's humanity or empathy. We should all be stepping up to fight the good fight, whether you're a part of the community or not. Being an ally isn't just wearing a rainbow sticker or arguing on Twitter. Shitter. It's also about reminding everyone around you that not being an ally isn't just stupid, it's dangerous. It's about reminding the rest of the world to have empathy. It's about taking the fight to them before they have a chance to get to our most vulnerable members of society. Talk to your neighbours. Join hands with queer people in your lives. Join communities. Form communities. Protest. Write to your Congress people. And, at the very least, engage with queer art. Go see a drag show. Visit a queer art gallery. Watch QLs. Engage with trans art. Understand that trans people are just fucking people. Do it for Robert Eads. Do it for Marsha P. Johnson. Do it for all the trans people we've lost along the way. And most of all, do it for the trans people who are still alive and who we can keep alive and even improve their lives if we just try.
She says, if some doctor doesn't treat you and you die, I'm going to be mad. I'll be standing up fighting, and I'm thinking, this really hurt my feelings. Because you know what? After I'm dead, it's too damn late.
If you're looking for things with some trans rep that aren't centering trans people's struggles as the main narrative, there are plenty of shows with trans side characters and storylines out there too, like Paul Strickland in 911 Lodestar, a show which also centers gay men, Kiku in One Piece, Rain Whispers in The Owl House, Cho Hyun-ju in Squid Game Season 2, because they pretty much did everything right with this character except cast a woman or a trans woman to play her, Danny, the sentient genderqueer street and the eternal drag party he's throwing to stay alive in Doom Patrol. It makes more sense if you watch the show, I swear. Well, Tony in Orphan Black, the transgender community groups in Monkey Man, the chef in a Taiwan class, a whole host of Thai dramas, but one of my personal favourites is 3 Will Be Free, or pretty much anything where Jenny Panan appears. I love that woman. A bunch of BLs have been directed by trans women, so go check those out too. And if you're looking for more story as a metaphor for trans identity, there are a whole host of gender-bending K-dramas like Coffee Prince, The Tale of Nokdu, and one of my personal favourites, Mr. Queen, where the show all but admits that its main character, a modern man transported into the body of a chosen queen, actually prefers being a woman.
그때 김소은이 이제 더 이상 이 세상에 없어. 그날 밤 옛날에 김소은 죽은 거야.
더 이상 중천에게 상처 주지 않습니다.
우리한테 더 이상은 없어. 난 널 용서 못하니까. 난 진짜 김소영이 아니야. 그러니까 안 돼.
Also, go see a production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch if you ever get a chance. Fun fact, Hedwig is an extremely popular musical in South Korea, which could mean nothing. And before you say, tell us, you missed this one, I'm sure I did. Please feel free to comment your personal recommendations down below. But I do want you to know that I omitted certain recs on purpose, either because they've aged badly or I personally hate them. So Transparent and Euphoria, despite casting actual trans women and being pretty good at the representation side of that, are being deliberately omitted because Jeffrey Tambor is a sex pest, allegedly, and Euphoria sucks ass. I'm sorry, Hunter Schafer, I'll watch everything else you're in, I swear. That show is so shit. Even a lot of other bad trans rap I've seen would still be better than watching Emilia Perez, and I'd like to remind everyone that this movie came out in 2024, and most of the bad rap I'm thinking of is pre-2010. Anyway, I'm off to go and rewatch Sense8 for the millionth time. Annyeong?
I have terminal cancer. I was supposed to have been gone months ago, but I made a bargain with him. Just let me make it to one more Southern comfort. Let me look out and see the love that surrounds everyone in this building today. This is the way it's supposed to be all the time. No prejudice, no hate, and the love that I have gotten from you all the last 7 years. There's no words to compare with it. And I just hope and pray that that love keeps continuing on. And I know as long as all of you come here, as long as all of you hold your hand out to the one next year that's scared to come out of their room, as long as you, my chosen family, take the time, take the love, and you bring it to each other here, then you can believe there's going to be one spirit smiling down on this conference every year and loving every one of you.